How's it going, everybody? Welcome to OP Entertainment. I'm Omar Darwish.
And I'm Pratik Cherian.
And this is our review of the Fablemans, a.k.a. the Spielbergs. We're going to go spoiler-free because we want people to go out and see this. Pratik, what'd you think?
Yeah, I said it in the short. This felt like sitting in on someone's therapy session.
For sure.
I made the comparison. I can't go away from it. I can't imagine... Like, I want to meet someone who watched this movie and didn't know that it was based on Spielberg's life.
Yeah.
And, like... What are their thoughts about that? Because I do feel like a lot of it is I
feel like it's so obviously Spielberg, but like maybe that's just coming from somebody who like knows, right?
Yeah, we already knew, and it's like very, very obvious. But I wonder. This is probably it's a very, very difficult movie to try to critique because in many ways it's so personal. Like it's so it almost feels like he was making it just for himself because he needed to, and not for like an audience overall. Not to say that it's not good, because it is.
He wrote us a love letter to us about himself, about cinema, about his parents, and it's really hard to like judge that or criticize that, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I'm gonna give it my best shot.
This movie sucks. Are we both gonna be the positive one on this? I haven't gauged. We haven't really talked about it off camera. I haven't gauged if you've liked this or not. I know you went into it kind of being a little pessimistic.
I definitely was. Cautious, but yeah, I mean it's good. I really liked it.
I did too.
With that said, it's an adult processing his childhood, and so like for that reason, there's definitely moments here where like the characters act more like memories than they do like real people.
For sure. Specific scenes, and for sure, that even confused me real quick, and I'm like, oh, okay, must have just been gotcha.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's some of that.
Unless you've seen it, but yeah.
Yeah. I thought the middle of the movie kind of meandered a little bit. Like,
for sure.
Like, I get it, but, you know.
I'll just to jump in. I felt like it did meander while I was watching it, but I don't know, when it ended, I felt like you needed every second of this movie. Like I don't know what I would cut from this. The beginning of this movie, I thought, oh, this is really well paced. Even halfway through, I'm like, it's really well paced, but I don't know if you need any of this. I was so much more focused on I'll say the side A story, which is just about like cinema and everything. I won't get into the side B story because that's more when you get into spoiler territory. But this movie is majority the side B.
Yeah, and I think, like, in a way, I'd almost, like, flip your characterization, because I feel like his focus was, on his family and on his childhood.
Sure.
And, like, at the very beginning of the movie, he kind of frames, the Sam character, which is him, but frames like him making movies or like him filming things as his way of like coping and controlling with a life that is out of control.
Yeah, for sure.
And so like in many ways, like this feels like him going back to his childhood and like trying to frame it and control it and do all of those things. So like, yes, like that love of movies is infused here. I almost feel like that's secondary.
Exactly.
Too. Yeah.
And I went into this excited about this because I wanted more of that.
Sure.
And we get a lot of that. We do. But you're right. It is taking a back seat to what the main story of this is, which is about his family.
Yeah.
And I guess if they didn't show young Spielberg's reactions to all of this throughout the movie, maybe I would feel like I was ripped off or I was gypped and I was sold a bag of goods that I didn't want, you know. But I don't know. It's just the way that this is. Like Michelle Williams in particular, her performance, I felt like, man, this is a little shaky throughout. Like, it's good. Not her performance. Her character was a little shaky. But that goes to what you were saying about how it's like, is this just how he remembers it? Is it more of a memory, or is this like exactly how she was? And if you look at it through like the gaze of a boy who, like, you know, how he looks at his mother, it makes sense. Yeah. I don't know. I really like this movie. The more I think about it, the more I'm just like I can't find flaws with it. What did you not like about this movie, Pratik? Because
like I said, I do think that because of that like memory aspect of it, like there
are fixes some things, right?
There's definitely some scenes that are just like, okay. I thought like the meandering. I wasn't I thought while it does tie together at the end, it does make it feel overly long, especially in the middle.
Who was the standout for you? Because I heard a lot about Michelle Williams, and she is great. I love Paul Dano in this. Both the kids that play Spielberg, young Spielberg, and then like middle young Spielberg,
they're great. Yeah,
great.
They're great. Yeah, I mean, is this the best Michelle Williams performance you've ever seen? Because I was thinking about it.
I haven't seen too many Michelle Williams performances.
I've seen Venom. I've seen Venom 2. I've seen yeah, this is the best Michelle Williams performance.
I was gonna say I didn't see that one that she did with like where Kevin Spacey was in it, and then they had to like get him out.
Who was in it?
I've
never heard of this person. What do you
know the guy from Knives Out, or was that the one that replaced him? Anyway, I don't know. This movie like really made me want to go out there and make a movie. So if you're like motivated or you need motivation to like do anything really, but like specifically like with filmmaking, man, like has any movie ever made a case for film over digital versus like better than this movie? Like I'm watching, there's like you're watching Spielberg like I won't spoil exactly, but you know. He's a filmmaker, spoiler alert.
He's making movies.
He's editing a movie, and it's like, man, this is so dope. I just want to do this. Like, it makes like filmmaking seem so accessible to like anybody, and like that just, I don't know. It spoke to me, and it makes me want to just like go out there and do anything. So this movie, if anything, if nothing else, was inspiring. Like, for real.
I think so. I can agree with that. I do think this is one other like. This isn't a criticism necessarily, but like when I'm thinking about,
are you talking about Spielberg's life?
No, not. It's one of those things where I think the very best movies, really like they make you feel something. Like they have something to say about you and about like life in general. And while I think there's things you can connect with, like in this case, you connected with the filmmaking. I think there's a lot of things that you can connect with. I think overall, the movie's so
even just his life, like just everything he deals with in his life was just so relatable. I felt
there's a lot of stuff in there that can be, but I felt like because this movie is so focused on Spielberg telling his story, like it doesn't really have any room to talk about anything broader than that. Like I don't know.
As far as it's stuff going in the outside world or in his life.
Like I said, I think the best movies like have something to say about humanity or about life in general.
You don't think this did that?
I thought it was I thought it was very specific to his life.
But I felt okay. Without like spoiling, I felt that this was more Spielberg showing his life as a blueprint for people who might need it. Like, cause the message of this movie, without getting into it, I felt that like rings very true. You know what I mean? Like to everybody. Everybody should, you know, whatever. I don't want to spoil the message. It's hard to do this. Everybody should fall in line with what the message of this movie is. I think anyway. You know.
Sure, fine. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but like again, this felt so personal, and that's great. And like there's so much about this that I really enjoyed. Like I'm not trying to knock it. I'm just trying to bring a little bit of perspective.
Okay, so this isn't a spoiler. Just to clarify a little bit, this isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailers. We see in the trailers Paul Dano, his dad, calls filmmaking a hobby, right?
Yeah.
And this movie, a lot of it, and the messaging is like how, you know, a lot of people are going to tell you that like what you want to do and what you believe in isn't going to work out for you, and you just have to do it because eventually it will. If you really believe it and you put in the effort, it'll work. And I felt like that is a message that can apply to anybody, honestly.
No comment.
No comment?
No comment.
Because
we will. No,
did you not find that message in the movie?
It's fine. Moving on.
Okay.
I'm glad you were inspired.
You weren't?
Yes, you know.
Oh my gosh. No. This is going to get Best Picture at the Oscars.
It probably will, because if there's one thing that Oscar voters love, it's movies about movies.
And so do I, but like I don't know if this gave them that. You know what I mean? Like enough of that.
And that's kind of my like not my thing, but that's almost like why I was like the focus of it is this. It almost feels like Spielberg snuck it, like marketed his movie as like this movie about like his life and about
he marketed
movies,
it as La La Land. It's really like his therapy sessions.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
But it worked.
But it's really good.
But it worked.
It's still really good. Yeah. Gosh.
If the execution of this film wasn't so like masterfully done, I think that in the hands of another filmmaker, this movie doesn't work.
Yeah,
that's what I'll say.
No, I agree
and
with that.
It also doesn't make sense because this is a very personal, specific story. But man, I love this movie.
There's a lot of little things I can say about it, but like
for sure,
I don't like. It's really well done.
Let me ask you this. How often do you find yourself returning to this? Do you think? Like a once a year thing, once every 10 years, never again?
Maybe once every like 5 or 6 years. I don't know.
Because I said this in the theater and I was like, I don't know how often I'm going to watch this, but like how often do you watch Schindler's List? Like it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
but like, you know, there's some heavy stuff in there. There's not like dark heavy stuff in here, but it's like it's not how you want to feel on a Tuesday when you're happy. You know what I mean? Like for most of the movie, there's laughs in there. Don't get me wrong, but this is definitely like a drama. If you had to categorize it, would you say?
Yeah. I don't even know if I guess drama.
I mean, it's a biopic kind of, but like it's
semi-auto.
Yeah.
Semi-biopic. Yeah. I don't know. It's a really, really hard movie to try to. Whoop, there it went.
Filmmaking at its finest. Sometimes doesn't always work with these miniatures. Go ahead.
No, it's just we kind of talked about this. It's just a really hard movie to talk about, like in that, or like to try to.
Do
like,
you feel like there's a criticism you have that you can't voice because you feel like it would like be?
No, it's
mean spirited, or just
no. It's more like the way that you like. I always talk about like trying to approach things in like what they're aiming for necessarily, and not what I want them to aim for.
Right, and if you look at it that way, like knocked it out of the park. What else?
So it makes it hard to like compare. Like makes it really, really hard to like start critiquing it. And like you said, like this is Spielberg. Like this is a guy that knows all the tricks, and so technically speaking, it's so well made. It's hard to. Yeah.
How do you? Because I know you love Honey Boy, and that is very similar to this as far as it's like kind of like a drama about like semi-autobiographical or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I felt with that I could criticize it a lot more. Or if there's something with Honey Boy I didn't like, I feel like definitely didn't like that. Yeah. So that makes me feel like this movie just didn't do much wrong. Or what it did? Yeah.
Honestly, it didn't.
Yeah.
It really didn't. Yeah.
I want to watch it like again like tomorrow. Or I need to see this again. Well, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna sit with it for like a week and then watch it because the more I think about this, the more is there a score higher than a 10? You ready to score this?
Sure, let's score it.
10. But midway through the movie, I'm thinking to myself like, man, this is really more like an 8, 7. Like I don't. Yeah. Some of these like,
that middle section is so dramatically weaker.
Because you're like what? Because it's like. I felt like for me, I'm like still trying to figure out what this movie is trying to say and do because it's like a lot of weird things that don't seem like they're gonna add up to anything, and then. I don't know. This guy is a masterful director, probably the best. And he's not my favorite, but this movie showed me, like, if you want to go out there and do something, do it. And, like, I don't know. I loved it. And a lot of movies say that. That's a message behind a lot. But, like, maybe I needed it right now, but this was perfect. I loved this movie. 10.
I'm giving it a 9.
Okay.
I think I voiced my criticisms. I don't need to go into it more. But yeah, it's so well done, and it's one of those movies that I can definitely see myself like watching scenes from, if not the whole thing over.
If Spielberg went out on this, I feel like this would be a good like.
It's a good swan song, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say?
I want to see it again. I want to go see it again. You guys should go see it. If you guys have seen it, I'm curious if you guys liked it. Because if you told me, if you walked up to me on the street and was like, this movie was terrible, this and that, I would definitely hear you out and probably feel for you, but like I don't know, it worked for me. So
if you're that guy that hated it, tell me so I can tell him because you need to come down like a peg or two.
It's an 11. It's an 11.
3 pegs. All right,
we'll see you guys.
See ya.